I offered my basement for them when they lost their apartment. Within months, my son-in-law took over my living room, changed the Wi-Fi password, and said, "You're lucky we let you live upstairs." When I said it was my house, he laughed. "Not anymore. My name's on the mailbox now." But I still had the original lease agreement, and when I showed it to his employer. I'm 62 years old, live in Albany, New York, and I've owned my house outright since 2010. I raised my daughter Mia here after my divorce. It's not a mansion or anything, just a split-level home with a finished basement, 3 bedrooms upstairs, a full bath down, and a fenced backyard. Quiet neighborhood, decent neighbors, and until recently, peace. Mia married Ray 3 years ago. He always rubbed me the wrong way, something fake in his smile, always talking like he knew more than everyone. He worked in IT, always between big opportunities. Mia was doing gig work online. Graphic design, VA stuff, so they were living paycheck to paycheck. Last year, they lost their apartment in Schenectady. Their landlord apparently doubled the rent overnight, and there were mold issues they couldn't afford to fight. Mia called me in tears, 5 months pregnant. Ray wasn't even on the call. Of course, I said yes. I told them they could move into the basement until they got back on their feet. I cleared out the space, helped Ray move in furniture, even bought them a small fridge and microwave to make things easier. I stocked the pantry. I did it because I love my daughter. And I wanted my grandbaby to be born somewhere safe. First month, things were fine. Mia helped around the house. Ray mowed the lawn once, took the trash out, and mostly kept to himself. The baby came in December. A beautiful little girl. Mia had a rough birth, C-section, long recovery. I cooked, cleaned, helped with diapers. I didn't mind. But Ray started acting different. He began working remotely full-time, supposedly for a cybersecurity startup. I noticed the Wi-Fi slowing down. Then one day I couldn't connect at all. Thought it was a glitch. Turns out, Ray upgraded the plan and changed the password without telling me. When I asked him about it, he said, "We needed better bandwidth for my job." I thought Mia told you. She hadn't. I asked for the password and he said, "Let me get back to you." He didn't. Next week, my recliner was pushed to the side of the living room, and a pack-and-play, bouncy chair, and breast pump were spread across the space like a yard sale exploded. I didn't say anything at first, I figured it was temporary. 2 weeks later, I came home from the grocery store and Ray was sitting on my couch, in his boxers, watching some gaming stream on my TV like he lived there. I asked if everything was okay. He didn't look up. Just said, "Baby's asleep downstairs. Too hot down there anyway." Then it just snowballed. Toys, baby bottles, burp rags, and Mia's makeup bag started collecting upstairs. My kitchen was always a mess. My pantry was suddenly theirs, even though they hadn't pitched in on groceries in weeks. The worst part? The silence. Mia stopped talking to me like her mother. She acted like a tired roommate. Ray never said thank you. If anything, he started treating me like I was a guest. Then came the mail. I saw it one afternoon while bringing in the delivery. The mailbox had a new label. Ray and Mia Robinson. No mention of me. Not even a care of or anything. That hurt. Deep. I brought it up to Mia. She shrugged and said, "It's just so we can get our stuff without it being flagged. It's easier." I asked her, "Why would anyone flag anything? You're living in my house." She didn't answer. It all boiled over when the Wi-Fi went out again. I had a Zoom call scheduled with my friend back in Buffalo. We do a weekly check-in. I texted Mia. No answer. I knocked on the basement door. Ray opened it halfway. I asked, "Did the Wi-Fi go out again?" He sighed and said, "No. I had to change the password. Too many devices were bogging it down." I blinked. "You could have told me." He leaned on the doorframe like I was bothering him. You don't really need it, right? We need it for work. That's when I snapped a little. This is my house. I pay for the internet. I pay for everything here. Ray didn't flinch. Didn't blink. He looked right at me and said, "Not anymore. My name's on the mailbox now." I felt cold all over. I said, "What the hell does that mean?" He smiled. A smug, little boy grin that made my skin crawl. "It means we're not going anywhere, so you better get used to it. You're lucky we let you live upstairs." I stepped back. Not out of fear, but shock. He shut the door on me. That night, I cried in bed. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm not the crying type. But I cried. I felt like I was living in someone else's house, even though my name is on the deed. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Instead, I got to work. I pulled out my fireproof box from the closet and dug through every paper I've kept since 1998. Found the deed, the purchase agreement, the paid-off mortgage notice. Found utility bills. Everything in my name. I took pictures of the house. The state of the living room. The baby stuff. The junk piled in the hallway. Took screenshots of my disconnected devices. I even found the old lease agreement I had from when I briefly rented the basement to a grad student 5 years ago, proof that the basement was never a separate unit, just part of my residence. I made a folder. Labeled everything. Then I called Karen. She's a friend from church and works at a real estate law office. I asked her to come over. When she saw everything, she looked me in the eye and said, "They have no legal rights here. Not tenants. Not renters. Not even squatters yet. You could have them out in 30 days if you file." But that wasn't good enough for me. I didn't want to just evict them. I wanted them to feel what it was like to lose control of something they thought they owned. So I did something I don't usually do. I went online. Searched Ray's company. Looked up the leadership team. Found the director of operations and copied the email. Then I wrote a message explaining that their employee, Ray Robinson, had been using my residential internet and address for unapproved business operations, and included photos, documents, and screenshots. I didn't hear back right away. But then something happened. Ray stopped working upstairs. I didn't see his laptop anymore. He wasn't on calls. Mia looked tense. I heard whispering. Arguing. 3 days later, I got a knock at the door. Ray, holding his work badge, his face pale. He growled, "You went to my job?" I didn't move. I said, "I sent them the truth. That's all." He exploded. Called me names. Said I was trying to destroy him. I said, "I'm just taking back my house." He left that night. Mia stayed, for now. But the house is quieter. She won't look me in the eye. And I know this isn't over yet. Mia barely spoke to me after Ray left. She stayed in the basement. Didn't come up for dinner. Didn't bring the baby upstairs unless she needed something. I didn't push. I figured she needed time to process everything. But after a week, I noticed something off. She stopped cleaning up after the baby. Dirty diapers started piling up in the garbage bin out back, unbagged. I'd find half-finished bottles left on the front porch. Once, I caught her leaving the baby alone in the car seat at the top of the basement stairs while she went down to grab her phone charger. The baby was screaming. I picked her up and sat with her on the couch. Mia came back up and just looked at me, annoyed. "You don't have to act like I'm a bad mom," she snapped. I didn't say anything. She muttered, "You just love having control again, huh?" I told her I wasn't trying to control anything. That she and the baby could stay as long as they respected the house. That's all I asked for. That's when she let it slip. "You think I don't know what you did to Ray? You're lucky I haven't called CPS on you for harassment." You think they'll believe a retired woman over a new mom? I was stunned. I've done nothing but try to help you, I said. She rolled her eyes and walked back downstairs. 2 days later, I found a CPS card wedged in the front door. I called the number on it. The agent was polite, but direct. Said they'd received an anonymous tip that the baby was in an unstable household. I invited her over that same afternoon. She walked through the house. I showed her everything. The crib. The baby monitor I bought. The pantry full of baby food. The photos from Mia's baby shower, ones I'd printed and framed myself. Then I showed her the downstairs space. She paused when she saw the mess, clothes everywhere, dishes stacked, a smell I couldn't quite place. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I said, I opened my home to them. But I will not be bullied by my own daughter. The agent nodded. She said they'd do a routine follow-up, but she wasn't concerned about me. I knew then that Mia had tried to play dirty. Later that week, I ran into our neighbor Tom while pulling weeds out front. He hesitated before he spoke. Hey, listen, is everything okay at your place? He asked. I only ask because I saw a guy, Ray, I think, sitting in a parked car outside your driveway a few times at night. Just sitting there. I froze. Ray didn't live there anymore. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near us. I checked the cameras. Thank God I had installed a cheap system a year ago after a break-in scare. Sure enough, 1:22 a.m., 3 nights in a row, his car sat across the street. No lights on. Just idling. I saved the footage. Then I printed copies. Just in case. The next morning, I woke up and the mailbox was on the ground. Ripped clean off the post. Screws bent. That smug Ray and Mia Robinson label cracked in half. I knew it wasn't random. I went down to the basement and knocked. Mia opened the door. She looked tired. Pale. Baby crying in the background. I asked, was Ray here last night? She didn't answer. I said, the mailbox is gone. Again. I have him on camera. Still no answer. Then she said something I'll never forget. If you keep pushing him, something bad is gonna happen. He's not scared of you anymore. That was it. My blood ran cold. I backed away. She closed the door. That day, I went to the police and filed a report. Not just for the mailbox, but for trespassing, and for threatening behavior. I had the camera footage. The printed documents. I even showed them the CPS card and explained what had been going on. The officer took notes, asked questions, and told me to stay alert. He said they couldn't do much unless Ray showed up again, but the report would be on file. That mattered. Things got worse fast. My tires were slashed 2 nights later. All 4. I was parked in my own driveway. Then someone used my backyard hose to spray into the vent leading into the basement laundry room, caused a leak that soaked half the carpet. It reeked of mildew for days. Mia said she didn't hear anything. I didn't believe her. I didn't feel safe anymore. Not in my own house. So I called Karen again. She said if I was ready to file an eviction notice, she'd help me draft it right. Legally sound. No mistakes. But she also said something else. You might want to check your property records online. Just to be sure nothing weird's going on. I didn't understand what she meant, until I looked. And there it was. 2 weeks ago, someone had submitted a change of address record for my home through the county assessor's office. A fake deed transfer form. Had my name misspelled. Had Ray Robinson listed as co-owner. My heart nearly stopped. I stared at the screen, hands shaking. A fake deed. Filed 2 weeks ago. Ray had tried to transfer ownership of my house, without my knowledge. Without a single signature from me. And somehow, it had gotten far enough to show up on the county records portal. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I called Karen right away. She asked for screenshots. I sent them. "This is fraud," she said. "This isn't just a family squabble anymore. This is criminal." She called in a favor at the county clerk's office, someone she knew from her firm. Within 2 hours, I got a call back confirming what we suspected: someone had mailed in a forged deed transfer form. The notary stamp was fake. My signature was clearly a forgery. It wasn't processed completely, thank God. But it had been scanned into the system before anyone flagged it. That's why it was visible online. I drove straight down to the clerk's office with every piece of identification and original deed paperwork I had. They took my statement. They opened a fraud investigation. I filed a police report and gave them Ray's full name, his last known workplace, and the video of his car sitting outside my house at night. That's when everything shifted. Mia suddenly got nice. She came upstairs with the baby. She cleaned the kitchen. Made coffee. Even asked if I needed anything from the store. I didn't trust a damn second of it. Then she hit me with, "So, I've been thinking, maybe we could take over the upstairs, and you could move downstairs? It'd be easier with the baby, and you don't really use the living room that much." I stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "You're asking me to move out of my own space, after everything?" She didn't blink. "It'd just be easier for everyone." I said no. Not a chance. Told her she had 2 weeks before I filed the eviction formally. That night, I found a typed letter on my kitchen table. No envelope. Just a sheet of paper. It said, "This house is unsafe for a child. You're being watched. Any more moves against Ray will end badly. You've been warned." No signature. No name. Just typed in big bold font like a ransom note. I reported that to the police too. They took it, added it to the file. But there wasn't much they could do unless someone caught Ray in the act. I decided I had to beat them at their own game. I hired a private investigator. Cost me a chunk of my savings, but I didn't care. I told the guy, his name was Mark, that I wanted proof of where Ray was living, what he was doing, and if Mia was communicating with him behind my back. I needed solid evidence before I filed anything else. In the meantime, I started prepping the house. Locked up my office. Changed the locks on the upstairs level. Installed a deadbolt on my bedroom. Bought my own portable modem for internet and shut off the router downstairs. Mia screamed at me over that one. "You're isolating me. I have a baby." I said, "You want to play house with a man who forged a deed? Then don't expect me to help." A week later, Mark got back to me. He had photos. Ray was staying in a cheap rental about 20 minutes out in Rensselaer. But he wasn't just hiding, he was working again. Under the table. For a tech contractor based out of Syracuse. More than that, Mark caught him meeting with another woman at a motel on Wolf Road. Same woman, twice. He had timestamps. Photos. Even a video. I printed everything. I left it in a sealed manila folder on the basement steps. Mia didn't come upstairs for 2 days. When she finally did, she was crying. Not fake crying, real, red face, breathless crying. I didn't say a word. She dropped into the kitchen chair and said, "I didn't know. I didn't know he was with someone else." I told her, "You knew he was a liar. You just didn't want to believe how far he'd go." She didn't argue. She just asked, "What do I do now?" I said, "You get him out of your life. And you get out of mine." But it wasn't over yet. 2 nights later, someone tried to break into the garage. I heard the door jiggling at 2 a.m. I flicked on the outside floodlight, and the noise stopped. I called the cops again. They came, did a walkthrough, but no one was there. The next morning, I found a broken screwdriver stuck in the edge of the doorframe. Mark said he'd install trail cams around the perimeter. I gave him a spare key to check the place when I was out. I didn't even tell Mia. I didn't trust her anymore. Then came the letter from Child Protective Services. Again. This time, not an anonymous call. This time, the report was filed in my name. According to the form, I had reported myself for elder neglect, mental instability, and an unsafe environment for children due to mental deterioration. It had Ray's style written all over it. But I stayed calm. I met the CPS agent. Same woman as before. She looked at me, confused. You didn't file this, did you? I told her no. I showed her the forged letter. The PI report. The screenshots. She looked disgusted. That's not just a fake report, she said. That's weaponizing child services. And now they opened an investigation into Ray. Mia tried to deny everything. I said nothing. I just kept printing everything. Saving every voicemail. Logging every knock at the door after midnight. Every camera clip. Because I knew this wasn't going to end with a talk. This was building to something big. Something ugly. And I wasn't going down quietly. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. I had just come back from the store. I pulled into my driveway and immediately saw the garage door was wide open. That was strange, I hadn't left it that way. Then I saw the basement door was kicked in. The frame was split. It looked like someone had rammed it with their shoulder or a tool. I ran inside, heart pounding. The upstairs was quiet. But when I got to the basement, I froze. Everything was trashed. The crib was flipped. Mia's mattress was leaning against the wall. Clothes, baby bottles, even the baby's diaper bin were dumped across the floor. There were smashed picture frames and holes in the drywall. One window was cracked from the inside. There were muddy boot prints everywhere. And in the corner of the room, on the floor, was my granddaughter. Wrapped in a thin baby blanket, red-faced from crying. No Mia. No Ray. I grabbed the baby, held her close, and ran upstairs. Called 911. Police arrived fast. So did CPS. I told them everything. Again. They called it what it was, child endangerment. Mia had abandoned the baby, or left her in a situation that led to serious risk. Either way, it was over. Within 24 hours, an emergency custody order was granted to me. Not temporary guardianship. Full custody, pending investigation. Turns out, Mia had gone with Ray. After all that. She left with him that morning. Packed a bag and ran. Left the baby behind. I found out from the PI, who caught their car heading toward Rochester. He tailed them all the way to some seedy rental property outside the city. Same one Ray had listed as a contract office on some tax documents. Fraud again. So now, I had the baby. The house. The documents. And the law on my side. And I still had one card left to play. With Karen's help, we compiled everything. The forged deed, the child endangerment photos, the PI's motel footage, the emails to Ray's last employer, the forged CPS report, the attempted break-ins. Then we sent a full legal packet to the New York State Department of Labor and Attorney General's office, under the category of real estate fraud, identity theft, and malicious misuse of state services. We also filed a restraining order against Ray, on behalf of me and the baby. And it was granted. 3 weeks later, they caught him. Ray was arrested during a routine traffic stop when the warrant flagged. Mia was in the passenger seat. There was a bottle of pills and an unregistered laptop in the trunk, belonging to his former employer. Ray was charged with filing a false property deed, child endangerment, computer fraud, harassment, identity theft, attempted unlawful eviction, possession of stolen equipment. He cried in court. Claimed I had poisoned his family. That he was just trying to build something. The judge wasn't moved. He was denied bail and sentenced to 3 years in state prison after pleading down. Mia? She tried to get custody back. But CPS had a full report. Photos. A timeline. She'd left her child alone in a broken basement with no food, no crib, and an open door. She failed every part of the evaluation: no job, no stable address, no willingness to cut ties with Ray. The judge granted me full legal custody. Mia was given supervised visitation rights. Once a month, at the county building. She sobbed when she heard the decision. She asked me, right there in court, "Why are you doing this to me?" I said, "Because I gave you a home, and you turned it into a war zone." And that was the truth. After that, I changed everything. New locks. New router. New mailbox, with just one name on it again, mine. I filed to remove Mia and Ray from every public record tied to my address. I even rewrote my will. All my assets now go to my granddaughter. Under trust until she's 25. Mia isn't listed anywhere. I turned the basement into a proper nursery. Repainted. Fixed the leaks. Got rid of every last item they left behind. I still see Mia sometimes. She doesn't look like the girl I raised. She looks lost. Hollow. She's civil during the visits, but not warm. And I don't expect her to be. As for me? I've learned more in 1 year than in the last 20. About family. About love. About what happens when you let the wrong people too close. But most of all, I've learned that silence is power. That you don't need to scream to win. You just need to wait, watch, and document everything. Ray thought he could steal a house with a fake mailbox and a smug grin. Now he's locked up. And my home is mine again. And this time, no one else is ever getting a key.